Hi everyone. Thank you for being here. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Rayhan Danendra Adisuryo, and in this occasion, I want to explain about my research with the title of Investigative Study on the impact of value-added tax to the market growth of EV in Indonesia. So moving on to the next slide, there are six main outline that I want to discuss for this session. The first one is background and research aim. The next is research question, objective, and aim. The third one is literature review. The fourth one is the methodology. The fifth is the findings. And the last one is conclusions. So moving on to the background and context. So there are 11.74% of total greenhouse gas emission in Indonesia come from the internal combustion engines. Government have target in realization of 0% emission by 2060, which is based on UNFCCC in Paris Agreement 2015. Uh, about the value-added tax itself, this tax is genuine project from the central government of Indonesia to spur the growth of EV sales. Other types of taxes are collected by regional government. Each region have different kind of consideration and tax tariff. Uh, The public awareness and market affordability of EV in Indonesia remains low, as shown by the number of electric vehicle in Indonesia is still relatively slow. So there are around 147 million of private vehicles units in Indonesia by April 2023, while only around 28,000 of units of EV in Indonesia by 2023, which means only 0.043% comparison between the EV and total private vehicles in Indonesia by 2023, while the government of Indonesia targeted around 400,000 units of EV in Indonesia by 2025. So moving on to my research question, objectives, and aim. My research is guided by two questions. The first is what is the impact of VAT imposed on EV in terms of market demand and affordability? The second is how can the government regulation on EV taxes can be optimized to maximizing the market growth of EV in Indonesia? My objectives are to examine the influence of VAT on the growth of EV market in Indonesia and to present the recommendation on how the government can further improve these policies. So these are my research aim. The value-added tax on electric vehicles market growth should be examined. And then the second is the Indonesian government should be advised on how to optimize the policy. So moving on to my literature review. The literature review covers the rapid growth of EV market in Indonesia, which is supported by the government target and initiative aimed to achieving the zero emission by 2060. I also looked at the evolution of EV vehicles tax laws, which now include incentive for EV, reflecting the government commitment to sustainable development. So these are the figure which is shown of the uh, explanation about the rapid market growth of electric vehicles in Indonesia. Yeah, the EV market in Indonesia has seen significantly growth with the electric motor vehicle increasing by January up until December 2023. So the government policies about the EV taxes in Indonesia. So the government provided the VAT incentive of 1% for electric vehicles for the fiscal year of 2023, a significant reduction from the 11% VAT on the internal combustion engine vehicles. Additionally, the EV benefits from 15% VAT on luxury goods rates based on 0% tax imposition based or DPP in Indonesia, compared to 25% VAT on luxury goods rates for internal combustion engine vehicles. So the electric vehicles got 10% deducted from the conventional motor vehicle tax applied to internal combustion engine vehicles. The next one, my literature review, is theories of vehicle tax in Indonesia. So the Indonesian vehicle taxation system comprises four main tax, which are the VAT, or value-added tax, the VAT on luxury goods collected by the central government, um, motorized vehicle tax, and motor vehicle title transfer fee by regional government, showcasing a dual structure approach to vehicle taxation. Indonesian vehicle tax laws have evolved from law number 18 of year 1997 to law number 34 of year 2000, broadening the vehicle tax categories to include both land and water vehicles, which reflects the diverse scope of vehicle usage and taxation. Moving on to my research methodology. So my research methodology employs the quantitative approach, focusing on data collection related to tax tariffs, vehicle tax income, and EV sales report. The type of data is numerical, which is supported with the government tax income statistic and EV sales report number from the Indonesian Vehicle Association. And also, there are narrative data from the government regulation, literature discussion, and etc. And so this is my research hypothesis. Um, the independent variable, there are two independent variable. The first one is before the implementation of VAT subsidies, and then the second one is after the implementation of VAT subsidies, which is both of them drag into the dependent variable, which are the difference in the increase or decrease of market growth of Indonesia. I also have two hypotheses. The first hypothesis, or H0, is there is no difference in sales of electric vehicle before and after receiving the subsidies. While the second hypothesis, or H1, there is a difference in sales of electric vehicles before and after receiving the subsidies. So next, moving on to the fifth outline is findings. The key findings indicate a significant increase in EV sales in Indonesia following the introduction of government tax subsidies in 2023. The percentage of EV sales in 2020 was just 0.31%, as shown from this pie chart, and then rising to 26% by 2022. This means that the EV market growth is rising massively in Indonesia over the past few years. Next, moving on to the results and analysis. So after I gather the data about the wholesale of EV each year, I sort the data and then make it the table like this in the right, in the left, which is the total wholesale of EV in Indonesia year 2020 and up until 2024. After I get the data of wholesale of EV over the last few years, and by each year, I processing the data using the t-test. So these are the interpretation. So as I mentioned before, I have two hypotheses. The first hypothesis, there's no difference of in sales of EV before and after receiving the subsidies. The second is there is a difference in sales of electric vehicle before and after receiving the subsidies. And then based on the hypothesis, the p-value is the first hypothesis is accepted if p-value under the alpha value, which is the 0.05 value, and then the H1 or second hypothesis is rejected if p-value more than 0.05%. As shown by the t-test, running the two data, which are sales before VAT subsidies, and sales after the VAT subsidies from year 2023 up until 2024 June. So the interpretation is based on the result of the test on the sales of Indonesian electric vehicle before and after. It shows that the p-value, which is 0.05 to 0.0733, this means that the p-value is above or over 0.05, which means the hypothesis, as the second hypothesis, is rejected because the p-value is over the 0.05% or over the alpha value. So the hypothesis is accepted, which means there is a difference in sales of electric vehicles before and after receiving the subsidies from the government. Moving on to the last chapter about the conclusions. So the conclusion is this research shows several things about the electric vehicles sales in Indonesia by 2020 up until 2024. In conclusion, the Indonesian government tax incentive for the EV have led to the substantial market growth. There is still room for improvement. The research, the researcher or me as a researcher also giving some recommendation, which is alongside the tax incentive, the government should focus on providing the adequate infrastructure such as charging station, attracting the investor further to promote the adoption of EV in Indonesia. Also include the enhancing of infrastructure to support the EV usage. As I mentioned before, such as charging facilities, creating more favorable condition for investor. This step, coupled with the continued tax incentive, can significantly boost the growth of EV market in Indonesia. So that's all from me. Thank you for your attention.